Well, we are officially less than 1 week away from winter. As I record this, we are expecting a snowstorm, or at least some snow this weekend. And most likely we will face several different snowstorms this year, which will lead to a need for shovels and snowblowers, as it does every year. You know, snow shovels are a great tool. They're an excellent tool to remove snow and move it from one place to another. Yes, it takes a lot of work, and yes, our muscles might ache, and sometimes because of the energy exertion or even the extreme cold, more severe medical issues may happen. But a snow shovel only has a limited functionality. This one happens to be plastic in all parts except for one screw on the back, and I guess one screw at the handle as well. But beyond snow, there's just not a lot. I've used a snow shovel like this because it's light to help move leaves and shovel leaves at various times. But to dig into the ground is not what a shovel like this, with this kind of shape anyway, is at all meant for. And certainly the plastic would not do any good. But other types of shovels do move dirt. They do allow us to dig up dirt, etc. A shovel such as this one can and does dig up dirt. Excuse the bang. It allows for digging of holes and things like that. Maybe it's not the most efficient, and it also certainly depends on what we are trying or how much we are trying to dig up on, whether we would use something like this or whether we should actually get a machine such as a bobcat or even something bigger. You know, if you're putting in a high-rise or something, you don't want to begin with the shovel. But, you know, it does work. It is possible. But, you know, sometimes we just need to move a little bit of dirt. Again, excuse the bang. So we just get something like this tool. Not very big, but it certainly does the job. It's not as cumbersome when maybe you're trying to pot a plant or maybe you're trying to do a little work in the garden or something. Just, you know, something like this could be absolutely suitable for digging, unless you, of course, again, need a bigger hole. But just as tools like that can be used for good, they can also be used for bad. We know that there are people who use tools such as those to dig up graves. Maybe they have heard something that someone is buried with a precious heirloom or something like that, and so they will use those types of tools to dig up a person's dead body and desecrate it by taking what was rightfully that person's, or at least what was probably almost in all circumstances not rightfully the person who is doing the digging. And that got me to thinking, you know, are Christians any different? Aren't we grave diggers? Now, I know you're thinking that that's crazy. Maybe your first thought is I'm talking about the resurrection, but I'm not. But what I'm talking about is that a lot of times, if as Paul says in Romans chapter 6, that we are dead with Christ, and therefore if we are dead, then we are no longer bound to sin, then why do we dig up our sins? Well, whether it's with a small tool, whether it's with a bigger, more robust digging tool, or maybe even something like a snow shovel where we just want to move something from here to there. Well, we often think about, well, you know, I just want to peek and see what this sin was like. I just want to remember. I remember when I used to do that, and man, it just seemed so much fun. Well, why can't I just do it a little bit? And that can't be of any harm, can it? Or maybe it's something that was just really out of bounds, but it's just something that goes through our minds. And we have to understand that the enemy knows us better than we know ourselves. The enemy, Satan, knows us better than anybody knows us apart from God. And so he can bring up those triggers. It's like the metaphor I use sometimes. It's like an old record player that goes around, or maybe even a CD. And as it's going around, there's a scratch in it, and it skips back to that over and over. And Satan knows just how to use that kind of idea to replay in our mind over and over and over, and we never get it unstuck. And so we use an even bigger tool to just unpack that. And all of a sudden what we find is that we have dug a big enough hole in remembering our past sins that we have now fallen into that hole and can't get out. It's kind of like a circle or a parable that been withering Ben Witherington tells about an eagle circling. I'll get that out. I finally did, actually. This eagle is circling above the Niagara River as it's flowing towards the Niagara Falls. And as the eagle is circling above, he looks down and he finds a deer carcass on an ice floe that is heading towards the falls. Now, this eagle is not dumb, but he's also hungry, and he realizes that he has enough time to swoop down, and although he does not have the strength to take this deer off of the ice floe and onto land so that he can gorge himself, he realizes that he has enough time to go down and to eat enough of this deer carcass before the floe and the carcass go over the edge, and the eagle will just fly off to safety, and he will look for his next meal. Well, the eagle circles down to the carcass, and he sinks his talons deep into the carcass, and he begins to tear, and he begins to eat, and he's starting to find himself relieved of that deep hunger that he had. And all the time, he can hear that these roaring waters, this thunderous waterfall is approaching and approaching, and he looks up just every now and then just to make sure that everything is okay. But his mind continues to tell him, it's okay. I can break free at any moment. Well, what the eagle has not realized is that his talons have now frozen inside the deer carcass. And when the time comes for the eagle to fly off into safety, as only an eagle might be able to do, he cannot break free from that which has trapped him. The addictive power of sin is like that carcass that is frozen around the talons of the eagle. He was satisfied for a while. He thought he could break free, but he wasn't willing to leave well enough alone. It's as if these shovels for us, where we just dig a little bit. We think it's okay if we just look at something here or check something there or return to something from our past life here. And in so doing, we find ourselves trapped and cannot break free. As Witherington says in a commentary, he says, this is why salvation has to be seen as a radical rescue mission, not as a human self-help program. Humankind has fallen and cannot get up apart from the grace of God and the transforming of human nature that grace brings. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to see a lot of snow shovels. We're about to see a lot of snow blowers out and about. But let's use them for what they're supposed to be intended. Let's not try to dig up our past, especially that sinful past, and find ourselves trapped when we should already be dead to sin and alive to God.